Cheongchun is a Korean word meaning youth. Cheongchun romance films or dramas are love stories revolving around young people like high school students or those in their 20s mostly. Now these youth melodramas are back on the screen, especially with remakes of Taiwanese movies from the 2000s that have been transformed into Korean-style Cheongchun romance movies. So let's talk more about this trend with culture critic Professor Chie Hye-won at Kyung University's Arts and Cultural Management program. Welcome, Professor Chie.
Hi, Professor.
Hello, good afternoon.
So, Professor Chie, we've got a number of so-called Cheongchun romance remakes that hit the screens lately. So, which ones are they?
Right, the film Hear Me, Our Summer Cheongseol, released last year, was the remake version of the 2009 Taiwanese movie of the same title. And more recently, Secret Untold Melody, 말할 수 없는 비밀, was released last month, and it was based on the 2008 Taiwanese movie of the same title as well. And You Are the Apple of My Eye, 그 시절 우리가 좋아했던 소녀, which was just released, was for also the Korean version of the 2011 Taiwanese movie. And moreover, Once We Were Us, 먼 훗날 우리, based on the 2018 Chinese movie, will be released later this year.
It's
Lots
quite
of-
interesting.
Right.
Yes. You said you went and actually saw the movie.
Yes, I actually watched all of the first three ones that you mentioned, except for the last one because it's not released yet.
Yes, yes. And I really want to watch the one you recently watched because it's got one of my favorite singers in there.
Oh, we're going to talk about her soon.
Okay, but it's quite interesting that there are a lot of Taiwanese movies of
Right.
remakes. So what do you think is behind the numerous remakes of Taiwanese movies?
So actually, it's because of the Korean film industry, first of all. So in the recent Korean film industry, the romance movies have been relatively weak comparing to the dominance of crime or thriller films. However, the Taiwanese Cheongchun romance, the youth romance film, have been attracting the younger audiences, such as Secret Untold Melody, Fall in Love at First Kiss, 장난스러운 키스, and Our Times, 나의 소녀시대, and building up the fandom for the specific genre of youth romance in Korea. So these romance films are mostly based on the universal emotions like first love, friendship, or the generation anxiety. And I think those elements are attracting many of the young audiences in Korea.
Now, when comparing with the original work, which Korean remakes have been very successful and maybe which ones not so?
The Korean version of the Secret Untold Melody, starring Do Kyung-soo, Won-jina, and Shin Ye-eun, brought more than 780,000 audiences within 4 weeks, and it almost reaching out to its break-even point. And the remake version of the Hear Me showed a different point of view, different interpretation from the original work, and got pretty good reviews, and not only in Korea but in several Asian countries, including Hong Kong, Japan, and Taiwan. However, the Netflix series A Time Called You, starring Jeon Yeo-bin and An Hyo-sop, was based on the famous Taiwanese TV series, the Someday or One Day, 상견니, but which had been a huge hit in both countries, but the Korean adaptation received a mixed review and unfortunately not that successful.
I see. Now, I think the biggest difference in remakes is not only the language or the setting, but especially the actors.
Right.
So in the recent movies that you mentioned, which actor or actress stood out? Maybe it's someone that Walter mentioned before.
Right, but personally, I think Hong Kyung and Do Yun-seo in Hear Me did really, really good job. And Do Kyung-soo in Secret Untold Melody was perfect in the character as well, because the Korean remake version changed the setting from high school to university.
Right.
So Do Kyung-soo showed a pure but mature personality very sensitively.
What are the characteristics of these Cheongchun romance genre that appeal to Korean audiences, you think?
First of all, the popular awareness of the original work makes the audiences excited about the new version, the different version in advance. And they can compare different versions, and it can be transformed into a Korean sensibility to provide a different kind of attraction. Most of the Cheongchun romance films focused on highlighting of the brilliant moment of youth. So many films capture the brightest period of Cheongchun youth and how they are growing up through finding out the meaning of the love, friendship from high school to their 20s or 30s. So the characters usually are not perfect in the first place, so clumsy in love or struggling with a crisis that suddenly comes. So, but in the most cases, they realize each other's sincerity, and which is kind of the conventional procedure in the Cheongchun romance films. And I guess the way it is carried out determines the success of the Cheongchun romance. Also, some movies have stronger elements of the fantasy, like a time slip in Secret, Untold Melody, and these are the main characteristics of Cheongchun romance films, I think.
And let's also mention Cheongchun romance remakes that are usually made when the original movie was successful, meaning some amount of pressure probably always exists, but they are continuously being released. So what are the strengths of these Cheongchun movies?
Cheongchun movies, right. So the main reason why remakes are increasing is because the production companies believed that remaking works based on the well-made original works fit into our market relatively easier than creating new works that present completely new works. So interestingly enough, many remakes are from the 20s. The 20th century, so that there is a gap of at least 20 years between the setting in these movies and nowadays. So I could say this remake trend would be the Cheongchun romantic fantasy films produced in East Asian countries such as Taiwan or Japan, like 20 years ago. So returning to the Korea with a little bit of localizing. So it's probably because of the expectation of securing stable audiences from the original works and also the nostalgia for the emotions of the past. So we call it like a retro trend.
And on the other hand, are there any concerns regarding the lack of new original romance movies in the Korean film industry?
Yeah, of course, there are concerns that the remake boom could diminish the uniqueness of Korean films and hinder the diversity of stories. So it is not enough to simply remake the old masterpieces, and I believe we try to create the original Cheongchun romantic films containing the context and emotions at this point.
And last but not least, Professor Chie, what kind of new original Cheongchun romance movie would capture the audience's hearts today? So what kind of new attempts would you recommend?
I think new original Cheongchun romance movies would tell not only a story about the first love or friendship, but also contains the concerns or social issues that Korean young generation faces now and how they grow up overcoming those barriers and making their dreams come true. For instance, recently the Netflix series Melo-movie just released and starring Choi Woo-sik and Park Bo-young. So it is an original work based on nothing, and it tells a story of a youth who want to love and achieve their dreams as well.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Professor Chie, for your insights today, as always.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Walter. As always, we're going to see you again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.